Support for makers comes from Bank of America and by Cypress Cove.
When I was in school, it was there were very few women at University of Florida. In school, it wasn't that difficult. You were all compared equals in school, but I tell you, when you started your own engineering firm as a woman here in Lee County, and I don't think there is another woman-owned engineering firm in Lee County to this day, it was tough. I mean, your work was scrutinized more than anybody else's. My dad was a huge influence on my life. He was actually an engineer before engineers were popular. He was born in 1899. He always told us that we could be and do whatever we wanted to be. He was actually a delegate for NATO. So when we were 4, we moved over to Paris, France. I was in a French school until I came here to Cypress Lake High School, and that's where I graduated from it. Europe was so far ahead with women's issues, with women being able to go into the sciences and the engineering, where here it was more arts and education. My engineering degree is in environmental engineering, a lot of chemistry, a lot of water cleanup. You know, we clean up wastewater and make drinking water potable so you can drink it. So I've always had a huge interest in water policy, and water engineering. I had worked for somebody for 7 years, and they decided to make them partners instead of me, and I said, you know what, since I've trained all these guys who have their names on the door, it's probably time for me to move on, and I did. And a friend of mine actually said, I went to lunch with him, and I said, you know, what am I going to do? And he said, Trudi, you just start your own firm. It was very, very difficult in the beginning to be taken seriously. It was, and I think that is what drives you, because people always told me never, ever, ever give up. I get a call from Denver Stutler, the chief in the transition team for Jeb Bush, and asking me what I knew about the Everglades, and the next thing I know, the governor calls me and appoints me to the Water Management Board. For my first governing board meeting in 1999, I was crying, and I told my husband, I said, I am not cut out for this. I have no clue. I'm so out of my league. And he goes, you know, it's so good to see you out of your comfort zone. I said, or made the mistake of saying, my youngest one is graduating from high school this afternoon, and they all looked at me and go, you're it. And I said, I'm it what? And they go, you need to run for office. And I said, I need to run for cover, folks. You know, I never had any ambitions to run for any type of office. And that was at the end of May in 2004. And August 31st of 2004, just some like 60, 90 days later, I was elected to serve District 75, and I've been honored to be able to do that. It's definitely male-dominated, the Florida legislature. You know, in the Florida House we have 120, and I think there's only like 35 women. And most of them are educators and nurses. It is discriminatory in that if you're not part of that good old boy network, you're just not part of the team. And it seems like when you do get aggressive in Tallahassee, you're cornered one word, whereby, you know, if a man were aggressive, that was just asserting himself. And women have a harder time doing that in Tallahassee than the men do. I think the two most important bills would have been the Babcock acquisition, which took 73,000 acres of land and put it in state land, state-run. It's such gorgeous and pristine lands out there. And then I did a bill called the Northern Everglades Bill, which would clean up the waters north of Lake Okeechobee and the Kissimmee chain of lakes, because my theory was, why do we worry about the waters coming out of Lake Okeechobee? Why don't we get to the source of where the problem is, which is all the lakes that drain into Lake Okeechobee, and that has been a very successful program. Success is definitely your family first. My children are, well, they're not children, they're grown-ups. They're 26, 28, and 30, and they're wonderful, have always been great kids, never had any problems with them, and that in itself is a blessing. I put them in a good Christian school. I truly believe that helped where I couldn't be there because I was working for a firm. I couldn't be there. I wasn't a home mom. I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom because I just got through engineering school and I really wanted to practice engineering. Faith and the good family values, I think, is what made me able to work and raise 3 great loving kids. I would like my legacy to be I left it in better shape than when I found it.
Support for Makers comes from Clive Daniel Home and by Chico's.